Hey friends, welcome back to Homeschoolology. My name is Niki. I'm a homeschooling mom of 4. I've got a 7th grader, 3rd grader, and 5 and 3-year-old doing a combined pre-K level. And on this channel, I like to talk to you guys about mostly secular homeschooling, but also about homeschooling in general, having a larger family, traveling with a larger family, and of course, motherhood. So today's video is Homeschool Styles Explained. So if you have are either new to the homeschooling world or have been around a while and just are like, what are all these homeschool styles? What do they mean? How are they? Where do I fall? And this is kind of helpful when you're looking for homeschool curriculum. Like knowing kind of where you fall can help narrow down your search for you. So I thought it would be great. I know there's tons of information on this out there, but I thought it would be nice to kind of put it in one video for those of us who would prefer to hear somebody tell us rather than read it for ourselves. So that is what this video is going to be today. So come along. As I said, today, Homeschool Styles Explained. So I have taken kind of a sampling of like the most popular, most heard about homeschool styles. So I am by no means an expert in this. This is just kind of like what I understand and what I gathered in my research as to what these styles are. And so I'm going to go through them and I'm going to tell you kind of like what they're about and then who these styles might be good for. So I'm going to put timestamps on here, so if you just want to jump ahead to see one that you might not know much about, then you can do that as well. And let's get started. So first up is school at home. So this is kind of what I think a lot of non-homeschoolers think of as homeschool, because what do you do when you're trying to figure out something? You put your own personal experiences into what you're looking at. So I think a lot of people, when they think of homeschool, especially people who were public schooled, what they think of when they think of homeschool is a mom standing at a whiteboard or a chalkboard and kids sitting at desks and doing lessons similar to what a public school system is. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is a legitimate homeschool style. If that what works for your family, then that's what works for your family. So, but I think that's kind of like what most people think about when they think when they hear the word homeschool. That's what their vision is in their brain. So I do have some notes, so if you see me looking down, it's just me checking my notes. A lot of times this style will include standardized testing, just like the public school system uses to kind of check understanding. So it really does, it is like doing the same thing that is done in public school, just at home. Families who this would be good for are families who thrive on structure, or children who thrive on structure, knowing this is what we do, this is how we do it, this is when we do it. All of that is really how this style kind of runs. It also would be good for families that live in states where they have stricter guidelines as to what you need to have a homeschool. So some states do have really strict laws, and so this style could really help you meet all of those requirements. So that is public school at home. Let's move on to the next one. So next up is classical education. And this dates back all the way to the Greeks, guys. This is kind of how like formal education began, where it all started. And people like Aristotle and Plato are who helped design this theory. And so classical education is broken down into like 3 phases. So the first one is grammar, which is up to ages 6 or 7. So beginning your learning process up to age 6 or 7, you're in the grammar phase. Next up is the logic phase, and that's 6 to 7 up to about 14 years old. And this is kind of just like going a little bit more in depth on this, what they're learning and how they're learning it. And then after 14, it's what they call the rhetoric stage. And so that is your last stage of learning set out, and it's 14 plus, so this is just continued learning, because the classical education's like main goal is to produce virtuous lifelong learners who are looking for the logic in the world around them. Most classical programs combine a Christian perspective or biblical view with their programs, so this tends to be a little bit more popular with your religious people, not your secular people. Although secular homeschoolers can find a lot of value in a lot of the ways that this stuff is laid out. And it does have a heavy Latin Latin influence. So, that tends to be very helpful for learning things like spelling and all of that jazz. So, who's going to benefit from this style? Children or families who like structure, again, because it is very structured. It does lay out, this is kind of what you need to be learning at this age, and this is what you need to be learning at this age. Children who are very logical are going to enjoy this style because it does focus on the logic of things. Parents who want to be directly teaching their child, this is a great style for them. And families who hold Christian perspectives. So that is who a classical education approach is going to be best for. Moving on. Next up is Montessori. And so you've probably heard this word thrown around quite a bit. It is pretty popular, even with not just within homeschool circles. It's also popular in public school circles. There's a lot of Montessori preschool environments out there. It's a very hands-on, child-driven approach, but with very specific parameters laid out. So it's not like child-led learning, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on. There is some child-led things happening here. Children are getting to make choices, but they're getting to make choices within a very set limit of activities and resources provided to them. It's best suited when you have multiple age groups that working together, because a lot of this approach is like the younger students learning by observation. So having younger students observing older students can be very beneficial to that process. And it involves a lot of kinesthetic and sensory learning. So this is going to be really well suited for children who love to do things with their hands. They really enjoy sensory learning and sensory input and learning about the world around them through experience. So that is who this is going to work for the best. You do need to be a plan ahead family, somebody who enjoys sitting down and planning out exactly what you're going to be doing for the coming week or weeks. Because even though there is a lot of child choice here, you do have to set it up for what you're trying to teach your children. So it is a planning heavy approach. But other families that this might be good for are families who enjoy minimal spaces, because Montessori is all about, limiting things to this is the one where you're seeing all of the wood play sets and wood pieces and this, play kitchens and all of that. So if you a minimal, playroom, this might be a really good style for you. This approach is also great for families who really want to set clear boundaries for their children, but also allow them the opportunity to make their own choices, giving them freedom to choose while keeping them within a certain set of boundaries or parameters. So that is Montessori. Moving on. So next up is one that you've probably heard a lot about, because it is Charlotte Mason. And while Charlotte Mason is primarily or started as and has a lot of Christian foundation in it and has a lot of Christian perspective, you can adapt this style for both Christian and secular approaches. I know we here personally enjoy a Charlotte Mason approach as far as using living books and using nature to explore the world around us. But we don't use any of the Christian's perspective. So we typically don't use any Charlotte Mason designed curriculum, because it normally includes that. But you can take the principles from this and create your own, use the principles to create your own curriculum. So Charlotte Mason was a British educator, if you don't know, and believe she was a governess, and then she developed her own kind of teaching style. And so it is a very laid out, if you're going to be, truly religiously Charlotte Mason, there is a very set parameters that you follow. This is what they learn at this age. This is what they learn at this age. This is what you want to be teaching them here. Here are the checkpoints that they need to be able to achieve before they move on. And so it is very structured and very laid out. Although a lot of us, I feel might have kind of this approach is more like snuggly and hanging out and going with the flow, because it does kind of involve that too. You're using a lot of picture books rather than a lot of sit down and write approach to this, and she does focus on like keeping lessons really short, especially for younger kids. Like younger kids is 5 to 15 minutes, and then it goes up as they get older. So it does kind of marry this kind of loosey-goosey to this very structured style. But basically, a lot of people say or hear Charlotte Mason and immediately equate it to like literature study, because that is a big focus of this style. But there's a lot more to it, and if you are somebody who wants to come from that Christian perspective, this might be a really great option for you to look at. Families who might enjoy this style are families who like to get cozy and snuggle up on the couch together and read and read and read and read. So your children are gonna probably learn best through auditory input. They're gonna enjoy being out in nature and love music and love art and just love being exposed to all of those things. They're gonna enjoy simplistic days. It's also going to be good for students who struggle with things like handwriting, because there's just, it's just not as much writing as a lot of the other styles tend to be. It's going to be good for time-pressed families, especially if you're following it very strictly, because it is pretty laid out for you. And so you kind of really do just have checklists that you got to go through. And then it's also going to be good for families who enjoy like family style learning. So where everybody comes to the table together and learns all at the same time. So if you enjoy like a unit study approach, this is going to be a really good style for you. So moving on. Next up is Waldorf. So I struggle to say that word, so I'm going to try to say it as infrequently here as possible. But Waldorf is a very specific style of learning. And so I'm going to read a little snippet here from their website for you guys. And it is, this style seeks to educate the whole child, head, heart, and hand. The head refers to thinking critically and independently, heart refers to the capacity for feeling, and hand referring to the willingness to take action to achieve one's goals. So basically, it is kind of looking at the whole child here and trying to get the whole child to move towards one common goal. It is similar to the classical approach in that it has the 3 levels, but they do call them something a little bit different. And Waldorf does delay formal reading and writing until the age of 7. So that if you have a child that is struggling to learn to read or doesn't really enjoy writing, this might be a really good style for you. It is a very heavy focus on the arts, so like handcrafts and art and music study and very art heavy. So if you have a child that really enjoys those things, this might be a good style for you to look into. So what kind of families is this going to work best for? Families who hold high value on the arts, families who like structure but also flexibility, families who value the whole person approach to learning, families who enjoy getting cozy together and reading together, families who enjoy creating together, and families who value learning through play. I find that we do like to pull a lot of things from this style, but we don't necessarily follow this style because it is a little too strict for my personal taste. But I do enjoy a lot of the ways that they approach learning in this style. So that is So that is Waldorf, all kind of summed up for you guys. And moving on to the next. So next up is unit studies. Unit studies are basically when you take one subject and focus heavily on that one subject while you're encompassing all the learning. So math is normally not included in unit studies. Math is normally something that you're going to do like as a separate thing, but unit studies is going to cover your language arts, your science, your history, your geography, your every other subject, art, music. It's all going to be contained. You're going to focus on one subject. For instance, let's say bats, or let's say Winnie the Pooh. You're gonna take Winnie the Pooh and you're gonna use that one book. You're gonna read that one book as a family. You're gonna use it to learn about bears and rabbits and kangaroos and owls, and you're gonna do animal lessons on that, and that's gonna pull in your science. Then you're gonna learn about England, and you're gonna tie in the geography of England and the history of England, and you're gonna learn who wrote Winnie the Pooh and why did he write it, and you're gonna learn the history of all of that. So that's gonna tie in your history. And while you're doing all of that, you're going to be doing copy work, and you're going to be asking questions about how the story is written, what perspective is the story written from, What elements of a story, what is the plot? What is the settings? You're going to be asking all of that things, and that's going to pull in your language arts. So basically you're using one full idea and pulling in all the other subjects into that. So you're going to create an art piece, like maybe you're going to draw the map of the 100-acre woods, or maybe you're going to create some beautiful artwork for the walls, and then you're also going to listen to music from that time period. And so you're going to be bringing in all the different learning subjects into one subject and put a pretty little bow on it. So unit studies are really, really fun. As you can tell, this is we use a lot of unit studies, so this is kind of one that I know a lot about. And we just really enjoy this study. So who is this going to be good for? Who are unit studies going to be good for? Children who are, when you have a lot of children that are close in age, this is going to work really, really well for you. Families who enjoy learning as a family, so family style learning. Students who learn best when they get to choose topics, because you can let them choose the topic and then pull in all the resources that you want to make sure they're covering under that general topic. And parents who don't mind putting in a little bit of effort on the planning end, pulling materials, gathering materials, and working to make sure that everything fits together. And of course, families who enjoy reading together, because in unit studies, you typically are using a lot of resource books and books to pull the information from. So you probably need to enjoy reading together as a family if you're going to be using unit studies. So that is unit studies. Moving on to the next. Next up, we're going to talk about unschooling, and I feel like this is the most misunderstood category. People hear unschooling and they immediately think that you're not doing anything to teach your children, and that could probably be the farthest thing from the truth. What unschooling is a child-led, child-directed style of learning. So oftentimes this actually means that it's a lot more work for the parent, because the children is going to choose a topic to learn about, and then the parent is going to have to be doing all the research and finding all the resources, which your child can help with that process. But when they're really, really young, you're going to be putting together, it's kind of like a unit study, except you're letting the child, do a lot more of the deciding which direction you're going to go. Rather than just picking the topic, they're going to also choose what kinds of things they want to do to learn about that. So they're going to decide if they want to do an art project, or they're going to decide if they want to do a PowerPoint, or they're going to decide if they want to write a paper, or whatever they decide, however they decide they're going to want to do it. So you are putting a lot of the ownership onto the child. This is going to be great for kids who really are very independent, children who want, who like doing things for themselves. And basically what you're trying to do is develop a love of learning. You want children, and the goal of this is to have your children be excited to learn new things. When they are interested, this child-led learning isn't necessarily like a style. I mean, I guess you could call it a style, but I didn't lay it out as its own style here. I just am talking about child-led learning where it applies to unit studies and unschooling and things like that. You're letting the child make the choices, but you have to provide all the resources for them to learn from. So who is this style going to be best for? This style is going to be best for, like I've already said, people who have independent children or people who want to raise independent thinkers, people who value giving choice to children or letting children choose what they're going to learn about, and people who enjoy going down rabbit holes, because essentially this is just a giant rabbit hole that you're going to be climbing down. And so this style is definitely I think a lot of people think of it as, the easy one because you're not doing a lot, but really in reality, it's kind of the opposite of that. So that is unschooling. And then last but not least is eclectic. So basically, eclectic is just what it means. It means that you pull and choose different elements from each of the different styles to basically create your own style and the style that works best for you. And in all honesty, we probably all are eclectic homeschoolers, because I don't know that there are, maybe there are, but in my world, there's not a lot of families that follow one style strictly and they hold every single one of those elements that are laid out and they follow them exactly to a T. There are families out there that do that, and if that is your style and that's what works for you, then that's what you need to do. But I feel like, and at least in my world, a lot of families that I know of are families that are kind of pulling pieces from Charlotte Mason because they really enjoy reading together and they really enjoy learning about, you know, learning from really valuable literature, and people who are using some unit studies here because they really like when you can take one topic and build upon it to meet all of your other subjects, and people who are pulling a little bit from the classical category because they really like the approach to teaching grammar, or you know, so people who are pulling a little bit from here and a little bit from there. So who is the eclectic homeschooling learning style going to be best for? It's going to be best for families who really want to create a tailored custom homeschool environment that matches their family perfectly. It's going to be great for families who don't mind doing a little bit of planning because it does take a little bit of extra work to pull different resources and piece them together. And it's going to be great for families who want to provide interest-led learning opportunities while still meeting a specific standard of learning. So still making sure that they're meeting specific standards that you feel that they should be meeting. And so that is what we are here. If you didn't know that, if you haven't been around, that's what we do here, is a lot of eclectic learning, pulling mainly from unit studies in Charlotte Mason, maybe a little bit of Waldorf, and every once in a while probably some classical approach. So that is today's video. That is Homeschool Styles Explained, at least from my point of view. I do have a blog post on this, so if you're somebody who does like to read, I'll pop the link down into the down into the description for you guys. So if you're somebody who likes to read, you can go over there and read about that. And that is all I'm going to share with you guys today. So if I got anything wrong, or if you have more to add to that, I'd love for you to mention that down in the comments. And so that people who are coming here, especially new homeschoolers who are coming here, can have all the resources that they need to help kind of decide where they fall. Let me put a little disclaimer here. Like, do you have to know your homeschool style? Absolutely not. Do you have to fit in a box? No, you do not. You do not have to do that to homeschool. And you'll hear a lot of people say that before, or, you know, when you're hearing. But I do find it really helpful, especially at this time of year when you're trying to pick new curriculum, because if you know that you are definitely not a classical homeschooler and the curriculum is labeled as great for classical homeschoolers, then you know that that's something that you're not even going to bother looking at. You're not going to be wasting your time looking at something that you know just isn't how you like learning. That is why I wanted to create this video, not because I feel like you have to decide where you fit, but because it can be helpful to decide that these are styles that you do like, so that you can go look for curriculum that fall into those styles. So that is it for me today. I hope you will head on down and comment below while you're down there. I'd love it if you would subscribe to this channel, ring that notification bell so you can see when our curriculum picks are coming out, because that is here. It is time. And don't forget, you can follow us over on Instagram at Homeschoolology. You can always chat with me over there. Try to keep up with our day-to-day life as much as I post. And I hope you will come back and chat with me again real soon, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.